Okay, here we go. Today, we're going to paint up this lovely little Cairn Wraith proxy. I did have a video that I was doing for an actual Cairn Wraith, but that file got corrupted somehow and screwed all my material. But this jobber is our new proxy, new replacement. I will put a link to this file. It's free. Down in the link below, down in the doobly-doo, the whatever, the description, that's the word. Again, another day where I can't talk. But let's get started. Grab the airbrush, because it's useful. If you don't have an airbrush, or you can't use an airbrush, rattle canning is just fine and dandy. I'm not going to judge you too much. A little bit thinner. About out of this bottle. There we go. Make sure it works. A few drops of our reddish brown. Why reddish brown? Because it's not black. It's not white. You can use gray, I guess, if you want to go with true neutral. But I use reddish brown because it's a nice warm undertone. And all you have to do is throw a nice cold dark blue on top of it and you got yourself a nice what? A nice chromatic black. Now you really don't need 2 coats of primer. I know a lot of artists recommend it. But 1 good decent coat is all you really need. Don't need to clog your details. Just something to give that paint some tooth to bite onto. Now, I didn't grab my other model to give you guys a little show. Little show and tell. But I think we'll be doing some things slightly different today in comparison. I like this scythe a lot better than the previous. I think maybe, just maybe, if I do another one in the future, I will swap the scythe head off, and use that one instead. There we go. I knew there was a little bit missing. Alright. Our Cairn Wraith should be done. Yep, nice and dry. Looks excellent. Now on to the fun part, oil paints. Today, I remembered something. Remembered my glove. We are going to start off with a little bit of turquoise. Gamblin 1980 turquoise. I've never used this tube of paint. This is a brand new tube of paint. If you notice, there's a little shot of oil right on top. Don't worry about that. Let that oil out. I know some people say pull off your paint onto a little piece of cardboard and it'll draw the extra oil off. Who cares? It's not that big a deal. We're not using that much paint anyways. If you notice, it's got a little bit of streak right here. That's fine. Oh, look, we still have paint left over from yesterday. Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. We got a little bit of white and a little bit of red. Let's add those in. We're going to pull off just a tiny touch of paint. We're going to scrub. Literally just scrub that blade. If you have enough paint, You have too much. If you think you have too much, you have way too much. Like I said, if you have enough, which it looked like I had enough, which if that was acrylic, that would have been enough to do that blade. But with an oil paint, that's all waste. I probably won't use that ever again. Not on this model. But let's throw a little bit down here at the base. Why don't we? We can make that gray a little bit later. It's not good to let it go completely to waste. Let's use it. Just a gentle dry brushy action, gentle touch. Little scrubby scrub. Remember, warm base color, cool highlights. We will come back to that more in the future. And you can clean your brush just by pinching it, pulling that paint right out. Or you can scrub it. If it scrubs clean, mostly clean, it's good enough. We can grab new paint and move from there. What's next? Well, let's keep working on that blade. Grab ourselves some India yellow. I know there are complaints out there amongst the oil painters that India yellow just takes too long to dry. That's fine by me. I don't care. I'll make it take a little longer to dry because I love India yellow so much. It's a nice transparent yellow that's very rich and pigment dense. It's useful for all sorts of overglazing and color mixing. I don't know if you can tell right there, but just peeling that little bit of paint off with a little bit of turquoise that was left over in our blade or our brush, turn that a little green. Plus there's a little bit of green coming off the black. If you mix yellow and black, you always get green. That's why I hate it when people take a black prime base color, a black prime model, and start throwing yellow over top of it. It looks awful. And then they have to throw 15, 20 layers on top of it to get good coverage. It's just boggles my mind. Why would you do so? But here we go. India yellow right over top of this turquoise. This turquoise is so thin, it has a chance to set up, but we're just going to go ahead and mix right on the blade. And that didn't turn as bright green as I was hoping, but that's okay. Why is it okay? Because we are still learning together. But it is a nice sickly green with that brown coming through right through here. A little bit right through here. Nice putrescence. There we go. That's a better green. You can always mix on the palette, i.e. my thumb, and try and bring the values up some or whatever. But that is, I think that will work exactly for what we're going for. I have a little bit of green wash, fluorescent green wash left over here. I don't want to touch that yet. I don't think I'm going to touch that with this model, simply because it worked really well for the effect I was trying to do yesterday. But I don't think I'll need it today. I might put it on his face. That might work. Anyways, 1980 India yellow, done. Let's grab our handy dandy brilliant yellow pail, wherever that may be. There it is. we're going to start using that as our first coat of color over top our robe. This is going to be our primary color. This is going to be our big scene. I'm just throwing a little bit on the back of the glove. I like using the back of my hand as my palette because I don't have to go reaching everywhere. It's just right here. The model's in my left hand, the paint's on my left hand. It's just ready to go. Oh, that's perfect. That's a nice soft green with that brilliant yellow pale. We're just going to take and we're going to scrub right over this robe. This isn't our first color. Remember, this isn't our final color. This is our first color. We will be lightening this up with some just regular matte, flat titanium white. We haven't touched any thinner. This is just straight out of the tube. The only thinner that we have mixed with this is what's already in there, the oil that's already mixed in the tube. And if you make a little bit of a mess, it's not that big a deal. It's easy to fix. If you don't like the way it looks, you can always take a blending brush and just blend it all away. Just give it a quick little tap, tap, tap. And it'll lift up the paint. And I'll just take it right away. Or smooth it as a transition between one color and the next. That looks really good to me. At least to start off with. Let's clean the brush. Pinch, pull, maybe a little twist. Everybody loves a pinch, pull, and twist. As long as it's not too hard. Now, our robes looks almost exactly like our scythe, but we're going to change that in just a hot second. If it was a snake, it'd bit me. Titanium white. Just a little shot of that. This is a little softer. Still linseed oil based paint. It's just a little softer. Little stab. Scrub that loose. Soften it up. Little dab again. Let's get that oil paint mixed into our bristles. And because this has already had time to set, we don't have a lot of thinner mixed in there. It's ready to go. Just start grabbing, just start stabbing, and just start blending on your model. And right now I want those brush strokes because I want that texture. I don't want perfect blends. I want this to look gross. I want this to look nasty. And a lot of people are all about the smooth blends when they do their acrylics. That's why they glaze for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. Or they put in intentional texture because they hash their brush strokes. Here I don't have to worry about that. I can just grab the brush and start scrubbing any which way. And it adds those hash marks and textures and physical dimensions to my paint all on their own. I'm going to touch a little bit of this across the face there. A little bit down in the torso. Heck, let's do the arms even. Have an idea for the arms. We're going to wash those arms with that neon green. Maybe throw some yellow in that. Make them look spooky. Now I want to do a deep color change out of my brush. I took and I brought it over to the rag. Now I'm just double checking by giving a pinch and a squeeze. Sure enough, there's still a bunch of paint in there. A lot of paint, but that's okay. Let's grab a little dab of that leftover neon green. See what happens. Well, that's even brighter value. There we go. Because there's still so much thinner left in there, my paint went from a nice sticky, chunky, dry brushy paint to this smooth, buttery acrylic paint that I'm just not in the mood to deal with right now. At least not with that brush. So we're going to take it and we're going to peel off just a little bit. Do some more dry brushing across this face. There we go. Could have thrown it in there as a wash. But I think go. Let's get some of that up on the inside. Should have just peeled it right off my thumb. There we go. That's looking nice and spooky. Again, the texture is irregular. I'm not getting entire complete coverage. I'm letting some of that primer still show through. We want irregularity. He's not supposed to look uniform. But Yeti, you say, he looks like a child painted it. The reason I don't want regularity and uniformity in my coverage is because that oil in the paint and that thinner in the paint will still cause it to settle out and lay down and do all kinds of things that a typical acrylic doesn't do. So it'll smooth itself out. Now that we have that darker green, our lighter green tends more towards white. You gotta have your darks to see the light. And I'm gonna grab a little bit of that indigo yellow, a little touch of brilliant yellow pale, and a little touch of that turquoise. Let's see what happens. Nice golden yellow. It's not dark enough for me. I want something darker for the haft of the scythe there. Let's grab some Terra Rosa. Williamsburg Terra Rosa. Just a little shot of it. Just take it and slapped it. Just tap, tap, tap. Didn't even squeeze the tube. Just tapped it on my arm or my hand. Excuse me. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, 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 tap. Didn't change colors. Didn't really clean my brush out. We are almost done. Clean my brush out. India yellow stained nicely. Let's go back to what's left of our titanium white. Let's get a little bit more of that, actually. Tap, tap, tap. Didn't even squeeze the tube. Just tap, 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 and it pulled right off. Boom. Look at that. You just can't get acrylic blends that fast. Alright, we're going to take a little bit of this, a little bit of our Terra Rosa. I'm going to make a nice, I don't know, milk chocolate brown. Let's mix it in with our turquoise we already have on our base. Let's give that a scrub. And all we're doing is raising the value on the surface of that. Just give it a nice gentle dry brushing. Now we have a neutral gray. It's covering the bases. Bring some dynamism, some contrast, without having to do any work at all. Now we're going to take some black. Not true black, though. Villainy Inks Ichor of the Damned. Again, I hate the word ichor on its face, just because I don't like the way ichor is pronounced. It should be ichor. But no, alas, English is a weird language. It's ichor. Shake the ever-loving snot out of Ichor of the Damned or all Villainy inks because they are pigment dense, and I'm not sure what mineral spirits they use as their thinner, as their solution, but it is thin, and it is really pigment dense for what you're working with. And since the pigments are so much heavier than the thinner, they settle and they stick to the bottom. They do a really good job. We're going to take this neat, no thinner, no extra mineral spirits. Just going to lay it right down in these crevices, right down in these grooves. Just touch it and watch it spread. Let's put a little bit up in here. Now this will peel the paint and cause it to spread a little bit. That's fine. We're just gonna let it flow naturally, let it flow organically. And what happens, happens. And I think that is done. Now all we need to do is black out our base room and call it done. We've been here for 40 minutes. That includes digging around and chit-chatting and doing a whole bunch of nothing. That's pretty quick. Now all we have to do is let it cure, and I'll catch you on the next one. Remember, by every means possible.